Yeshikoach Viva. Yeshikoach to all who participated and read Torah today. So nice to be with you on this Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom. Before I start my sermon, I just want to say to my Kol Shofar friends and community regarding the announcement earlier this week. You know, sometimes you have to learn the hard way that what you thought you wanted, you might realize that you thought wrong. And that what you had all along was in fact all you need and what's best for you. And so I'm so thankful for you all, your friendship, the notes, the support, and I'm glad to be here and hopefully for a while. So now for the Drash. I began my career, as some of you know, as a day school rabbi. And I loved it. I had many wonderful experiences with the 8th graders that I taught, for example. And one of the great things about that job was that every year I chaperoned a 3-week trip to Israel with the 8th graders and got to see their eyes light up with incredible experiences. Now, this was a Solomon Schechter school. And at the Solomon Schechter school, you had daily minyan, you had daily prayer services. And it was the school policy for the boys who had their bar mitzvah that they'd have to come to daily minyan, daily services, and they were required to put on a talit and wear tefillin, the phylacteries, right? Girls didn't have to, but if they wanted to, they could. Well, one year, a group of 8th grade girls actually chose to wear a talit and tefillin. They just wanted to, and I was proud of them for making that commitment. So that year, the trip to Israel, the 8th grade is on an El Al flight. And as happens, you might be aware of this, there comes a time that the minyan at the back of the plane happens. Okay? People start gathering at the back of the plane. And the kids got really excited. They couldn't wait. They wanted to participate in the back of the plane minyan. Like, Rabbi, come on. I personally can't stand the back of the plane minyan, but they really wanted to. And so they get up and they're taking out their prayer books and they're putting on their talis and tefillin, including that group of girls. And, well, the ultra-Orthodox in that section had something to say about it. And they start talking loudly and talking at the girls. And all of a sudden, I'm in a Talmudic debate with one of them. And then I see this ultra-Orthodox guy walk down the aisle to the girls and start taking pictures of them. And these are my kids. I just saw red. And I just ran right up to that guy, got right in his space, and I go, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" So, I'm going to leave that story there. For now. Whatever the lesson of that story is, because that story, in a way, didn't just happen on an LL flight in 2006. It happens all the time, and it's happening in our sacred story of the Torah this week. It's happening in our parsha named after Jethro, Jethro in English. Who was Jethro? Jethro was the father-in-law of Moses. Is known in the Torah as a Kohen Midian, a high priest of the land of Midian, a pagan priest. And we learned that Yitro's daughter Tzipporah marries Moses. And then just after the Israelites have left the land of Egypt, they've been redeemed, they've just crossed the sea, and now arriving at arguably the most important moment in the Torah, because we come to the giving of the Torah, the 10 utterances, the Aseret HaDibrot, known as the 10 Commandments. It's a moment of radical intimacy between God and the whole Jewish people. It's revelation. That which was obscured is now revealed. That which is hidden becomes obvious. This gobsmacking, awesome moment is here. But first, we interrupt this very profound episode to let you know that Jethro is in the house. Apparently, it's very important to let you know that Jethro is in the house. That's how the Torah rolls this morning. And so it's like all of a sudden the Torah hits pause for you to hear about Moses' third father. I'll let you think about that for a second. Because the Torah needs to say, Vayishma Yitron Kohen Midyan, Choten Moshe et kol asher asa Elohim leMoshe uli Yisrael. And Jethro heard all that God had done for Moses, that God had taken the Jews out of Egypt. Now I need to tell you that many rabbis believe that this story is inserted in the Torah non-chronologically. In other words, this episode with Jethro, this subplot, they argue, actually happens after the giving of the Torah Mount Sinai. And they think that for a number of reasons. By the way, even if you don't believe that it's out of order, the story is still just kind of hanging there, interrupting the flow of the narrative, and so the same reasons would still apply. Reason number one, the rabbis teach that Jethro deserves a great reward. Why? Because Jethro is the one who took in the refugee. And who is that refugee? That Palit HaNirdaf? Moses is. And the way that Jethro took in Moses, saving him, is just as Moses was taken in and saved by Pharaoh's daughter. This moment is so profoundly important for the Torah that it has to interrupt this broadcast to let you know about someone who put his life on the line to save Moses. And that's such an important deed, say the rabbis, that the Torah needs you to know that Moses has to first receive his father-in-law before he's ready to receive the Torah. He has to receive his father-in-law, this man who took him in, before he can receive the Torah. That's the first reason. The second reason, it's even simpler. The prerequisite for receiving Torah from God is receiving Torah from another person. The Torah interrupts this revelation, this spiritual trip. The fancy word for it is synesthesia, where the Jewish people see what they heard with their ears and they hear what they see with their eyes. It interrupts this highest of high, ecstatic moment to let you know that even though divine, supernatural revelation is powerful, there is something more important, more fundamental to understanding the Jewish mission on earth than that, which is that there is this non-Jew who shows up into the camp and says, Moses, here, I have something to teach you. And Moses says, oh, really? Let me have it. So before Moses can hear, I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt, before Moses hears, you shall have no other gods before me. Before Moses hears, keep Shabbat, do not steal, do not murder. Moses hears advice from his non-Jewish father-in-law. And the Torah thinks that this is so important for you, for me, for each and every one of us to learn that we should receive Torah whenever it is given from whomever is giving it. Kol emet lemi she'amiro. It doesn't matter if he's wearing priestly garments. It doesn't matter if he has a beard. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's coming from a mountaintop. It doesn't matter if it's coming from somebody standing next to you in line at the supermarket. The Torah preempts Mount Sinai to bring you an even more subtle vibration of Torah that comes in the form of Jethro. Get it? And for me, maybe the most important reason for this Jethro interruption, this interruption of song and revelation, is to teach us a principle that the rabbis codify in a pithy and beautiful statement in Pirkei Avot, which is Derch Eretz kadma laTorah. Derech Eretz kadma laTorah. It literally means the way of the land, or what that means is being a good person, being a mensch comes before the Torah. What a radical idea, that there's a pre-Torah Torah that comes in the way that Moses receives his father-in-law, which is with great honor. It says there that Moses bows before him. He bows before a priest of another tradition and says, you are family. Welcome, Dad. Here we are. All 600,000 adult men, probably a couple million, and all. Here we are. And the first thing we do before we receive our Torah is to receive your Torah, Jethro. It's interesting because the rabbis say in the Midrash that Jethro has 9 different names. Yeter, Ruel, Chovav, to name a few. 9 different names. It's like he's this shapeshifter who comes down like a muse to a poet. And he says, here I am. Call me whatever you want, but I'm here to give you something. And from this, the rabbis come to teach Derch Eretz Kadma LeTorah. Be civil. Be a mensch. I wonder, though, is it so hard? Maybe it's hard. In a climate that's so divisive, so acrimonious, so cynical as ours, is it so hard? I have to tell you that I've heard secret reports that there are people in this community that may have voted for Donald Trump. And you'll never believe it. But I also heard that there are people in this community that voted for Kamala Harris. Can you believe it? And not only that, but all those same people who voted differently all come to Kol Shofar. Oh my! What should we do about this? Should we treat them differently? Look at them differently? I really hope that's not a question. Better not be around here. I mean, don't we all have the Tselem Elohim? Don't we all have the divine image of God within us? We may differ loudly and passionately about American politics or Israeli politics, and we should be able to have those civil debates. But what happens when we don't see human beings as humans anymore, and you only see their ideology, only their camp, their politics? What happens to us then? What's the point of our prayers then? Derech Eretz Kadma LeTorah. Before you receive Torah, turn on your menchometer. That's the litmus test. You think you're so right? You think you have the moral upper hand and you know the truth? Let me tell you, truth without love is ugly. We need both. We need to be able to say what we think and feel and fight for what we need to fight for, but always remember, Derech Eretz Kadma LeTorah. Being a mensch comes before your Torah, before your truth. I'll tell you another secret. I have done funerals for people who ate bacon and eggs on Yom Kippur. They did, I know. What a shanda. And yet those very same people had lines of friends and loved ones wanting to speak about them, eulogize them as to what a good person, what a profoundly compassionate person, that this bacon and eggs on Yom Kippur person helped my life in immeasurable ways. They would even say this person is a pious person, a religious person. He never spoke badly or gossiped. The person who eats bacon and eggs on Yom Kippur and never gossips is way more religious in my book than the person who only eats kosher and gossips. Derech Eretz Kadma LeTorah. Our work in the world, my work in the world, is to remember what is most important at all times, which is not to fall into a place of reactivity, hyper-reactivity, where I lose my makom, I lose my place, where I lose my sense of what's obviously right and wrong. When I'm standing on a plane taking pictures of 13-year-old girls putting on tefillin, because what? I'm shocked? Or maybe I'm excited, objectifying them? What are you going to do with those pictures? What's your end game with what you're doing? You mocking? Are you judging? You seeking to harm? When actually something very holy and profound is happening before your eyes, where young girls are experimenting with how to be closer to the Jewish tradition, how to be closer to God. How courageous of them to do that publicly. How incredible of them. No one's forcing them. You can't see this as holy? Take in this act of sensitive, brave transcendence. And so I said, what are you doing? Do you know what you're doing right now? These girls could be as holy as the high priest as far as you're concerned. They bring down with them the strength and spirit of Miriam and Deborah and Ruth and Hannah and Golda and every brave Jewish woman who ever lived. What are you doing? And when I said it, I wasn't kidding. I wasn't laughing. You think you're so religious? You're so frum? You're so sanctimonious? You would be lucky to be given a blessing from these young brave girls. Derch Eretz kadma laTorah. And I'll end with this. Is it not possible for us to reach across divisions? Well, I'm saying that in my shul here, we can. As long as I'm here, we can and will. Anybody here can have their own opinion. But in this shul, we look at each other with love on this President's weekend, no matter who the president is or who you voted for. We will balance truth and love to build the middle ground, which is tiferet, which is harmony, and of harmony and balance, the balance of truth and love. The Kabbalists, the mystics say that harmony is where we can actually experience HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the presence of God in this world, where we experience God in that balance. We come to shul once a week to feel good, sure, but also to wake up and not rest on our laurels. I am here as a rabbi, as Abraham Joshua Heschel put it, to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. And you get it all in one 15-minute sermon. We balance truth and love, but always, always, we can't hear truth, we can't know love without Derech Eretz, good manners, behavior, menschlichkeit. You can't receive Torah. You can't get truth in an environment without warmth and hospitality. We need good mouthing, not bad mouthing, because that's what builds a community of trust, faith, and mutual respect. Shabbat shalom.